I am going to speak on an issue which is very close to my heart. Naturally, I am a trainer. My core area of specialization is language, personality assessment. These are issues that are something which I really keep dealing with. But the issue that when I actually, the topic that he gave me is pretty interesting. The topic is my country calling youth. He said that the reason that I actually am giving you this topic is because, like all of us, when I get up in the morning, I come across so many things and very interesting things happen, and suddenly something earth-shattering takes place, and that makes me really think about what I want to do in life. And suddenly I'm actually jolted by external forces, and I start thinking, does it really make sense for me to actually try and look at this country from the way people actually expect me to? So I'm here actually to talk about this issue, but believe in me, I'm here to actually try and discuss with you, interact with you. I'm not here to actually just give you my thoughts and impose my ideas on you. So I would request you people to actually listen to me for 30-40 minutes, ask me questions, and possibly I would like to actually explore ideas with you. As I told you, it's fascinating, it makes me feel special that I'm a part of this country called India. And I'm not here repeating any jargon, that's a fact of life. Because I discuss with a lot of people outside the country, I get a chance to meet with them. As a trainer who's been training for the last 13-14 years, and I've seen the spectrum of engineering colleges in Jaipur across the country, it makes me feel very clear that most of you who decide to get into engineering, you make a choice and you go for it, but then some of you don't do that. Some of you actually take up engineering as a career, primarily because it has been thrusted upon, or possibly it was just a wave that actually flew and you became an engineer. Good, you all will become an engineer maybe 1 year, 2 years down the line. The next question that we need to ask is, what is the unique selling proposition that you actually will bring to this country? What is so special and unique that you will possibly be able to actually add value wherever you actually go? It doesn't matter what you do. At this moment, more important is to try and make sure that we draw a roadmap for you. And that is the whole idea behind today's session. You see, there was a very interesting piece of article that I read. It was 4 years back. And I think the entire thing broke 6 years back. 4 years back, I read the news, and that report was in Economic Times. It was about, it was by a company called Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs essentially is an iBanking firm, and I'm very sure some of you have heard this name. Goldman Sachs came out with a very interesting piece of information, which was not a news to a lot of people, but naturally for young people, for masses, it was a big piece of information, because to my mind, in our country, India, the real problem that we actually grappled with, or rather, the way we would actually look at ourselves, was something which was a reflection of thought of media and possibly certain percentage of intelligentsia. This piece of information was that 2030, by 2030, India would be one of those few countries in the world which is going to witness a huge demographic dividend. Yeah? I'm sure all of you know that, but I'll explain that. What it meant was that India is going to be one of those few poor countries, BRIC nations as they say, Brazil, Russia, India, China. I'm not trying to sell these countries, forget about it. The point that I'm making is that that was one piece of information which made me rethink the entire idea called country called India and youth. It said that what was perceived to be our liability for so many decades, I'm very sure Sanjay Gandhi was appreciated and criticized at the same time, because he was one person who took actually initiative of making sure that the country does not grow the way it grew in terms of numbers, sheer numbers. 1.2 billion is what we are today. We may be possibly bigger and stronger. But the point was, he was not very happy with the present state of affairs. So he was wanting to bring some kind of control over population explosion. And we always criticize our population. This piece of information said that countries like China, America, Britain and Japan, these 4 countries, these countries are on the negative side of demographic dividend. That is, they are going to witness more problems as and when we grow. Because 2030-40, majority of their population would be comprising with respect to old people. And India is going to witness 30 to 35% of the population by that time would be that of young people. So suddenly the idea was that India is going to be a young country in next 20-30 years. That's where people like you actually really fit in. Yeah? Now I'm very sure by 2030 you would have actually taken the first move and you would have possibly started a career possibly. Some of you possibly might be bigger than what you normally think you would be. Having said that, now the real issue is India, wherever Indians actually go, wherever we actually go and talk, हम सब कहीं ना कहीं एक बात कहते हैं, कोई भी politician, कोई भी economist, anybody that you see, they talk about the next century belonging to youth, which is a fact of life. But the real issue is, do we really understand what we are trying to talk to, to the world? Do we really understand the kind of responsibility that is going to be trusted to us because we are actually considered to be the flag bearer of future of India? Yeah. There are so many politicians who came. There are so many politicians who actually have performed. There are so many leaders who are there. We all ridicule them naturally because of obvious reasons. People say obviously because they don't really perform. Some people say. Yesterday somebody asked me a question. One of the IIM interviews 3 days back, a question was asked to a student, and the question was, don't you think we should scrap the position or the legal positioning that we've given to President of India? Because President of India does not mean anything else. The question was, should we not scrap the position of President of India? That was the question. I don't know what you think the answer should be, but before I actually tell you, I would like your opinion on that. Quickly, if somebody asks you this question, what do you think? Don't you think the time has come where President of India should not be there, because we are a country which is characterized by parliamentary governance of system, right? So please tell me, quickly. Yeah.
Well, I guess no. I should say no, because each and every all the arms of the constitution, the executive, judiciary, and the third, all of them report to the president.
Yeah.
So in case if we scrap the position of the president, there will be a struggle for power between all the three, judiciary, executive, and government. That will create a chaotic situation.
That's a good answer. But that will not lead to arm twisting, as far as legislature, executive and judiciary they are concerned. Because president is an independent arm. This will not lead to that problem. There will be a problem, and I agree with you. I definitely agree with you that we should not do it. But the answer lies somewhere else. Quickly, please. That's a good answer. Good try. Very good. I am very sure all of you know that Indian democracy has 3 different organs: legislature, executive and judiciary. He says that if President of India is not there, then there will be an arm twisting. It is already there. It is already there. Indian judiciary is criticized for being hypersensitive and hyperactive. Judicial activism is the present norm. So that twisting is there, even if he is there or is not there. The point that I am making is, I would request people to actually be seated. I will need some time before actually I can go in. So I will take some time. I would request people to be seated. Those who want to leave can leave. But I need just 30-35 minutes myself. And I would like to discuss with you certain issues. Well, the point is, there is no denying the fact that a country like India can possibly never be governed by one president. Unlike like you have America. In America, you will have one president who will rule the entire country because of obvious reasons. The obvious reasons are, it's a homogeneous country with respect to religious orientation. Catholics or Protestants. 90% people actually represent the religion. In India, every second kilometer dialect changes, and India cannot be governed by one person who claims that I can run India. That's not possible. That divide is already there, and we know that we are trying to just somehow actually make sure that the fabric of the country remains intact. The issue that I want to bring to your notice is that in India, only one person that I am reminded of who never allowed people to ask this question when he was President of India, APJ Abdul Kalam. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Because the President of India is a token authority that we all know. He does not have right to refute any issue. He might possibly suggest something. But this gentleman, every day he was doing something constructive. And he broke all protocols possible. The point I am making is, who is going to decide as to what's going to be the future of our country? Yeah? And how do you propose to do it? Somebody asked me, and I am very sure about it. All of you know that. If you ask me, last 1.5 years, what has happened in India? People will say, Anna Hazare actually, coming out, rallying masses, trying to fight against corruption. Absolutely right. There is no denying the fact that an octogenarian became a torch bearer of this country, and suddenly everybody realized that corruption can be eliminated and we need to voice our opinion. Everybody thought, and youth was absolutely driven by it. That was there. That was 1.5 years back when he actually shouted. He was doing it earlier also, but this was the time. You know what happened? I have a very different perspective to the entire thing. I am one of those who liked what he did. I am one of those, so I am not an exception, everybody says so, and we know that these were absolutely sure and pure and pious. But, believe you me, taking an ownership on corruption under this universe or any part of the world, if anybody can take this onus or propriety of being non-corrupt, it will be difficult, you know why? And you know what happened after that? That 1.5 years and now, in last 1.5 years, don't you think suddenly the entire country has started singing a different song? Again, you know why? Because suddenly there is a perspective in our country that people who we are choosing, people who become politicians and become people who are parliamentarians, suddenly we all have started seeing these people with a different vision. You know why? Suddenly there is a huge dichotomy that people talk about. There is a civil society and there are politicians and there are parliamentarians. So there are people who claim to represent civil society, which is us, and there are people who claim to be sitting in parliament, which essentially are they. Now the first question that I've got to ask youth of this country, who is completely moved by corruption, first of all, what claim to corruption would you take? A, are you corrupt or you are not corrupt? That's my question that I ask you. Do you believe that you are corrupt or you are not corrupt? Second question is, what do you essentially understand by civil society? I have a different take on corruption altogether. Out here, the claim that is made is that civil society people will actually come out and they'll come out with a bill which is going to change everything under the sun, and suddenly there will be a scam, complete blanket ban on corruption, and that will possibly put up. That is something which is there, that's true. Somebody was needed to actually raise voice against corruption. We needed a gentleman like him. We needed somebody who would shake our souls. But then, the problem is that somebody raising a voice and talking about a bill is not the only panacea to solve the problem of corruption. The answer lies out there. The answer lies out there. People are sitting out there. It's pretty obvious that some of you will always try and find solution in a very simplistic fashion. Had corruption been so simplistic an issue, the world would have been a different place altogether. Had legislation or some piece of legal affair could change the future of country, it would be a different ballgame altogether. You know what? People who actually claim to represent civic society, who are they? Suddenly, in India, there is a revenue. Those who are sitting in parliament are chosen by us. A. You and me would decide out of those who actually contest election, and then these people actually join parliament, and then they choose a leader who runs the country, who is the Prime Minister of India, and suddenly all of us have started seeing them as black sheep. Because some of them are. And everywhere in the world the problem remains. So my problem is before 1.5 years the entire thing broke. And you know what has happened after that? Every day in newspapers, I've checked the limits. Take my words, read newspaper, 2012 when we entered, right? 2012, read newspapers January 2010, January, February 2010, and then read newspapers now. The entire atmosphere is too different. Suddenly people don't talk about major policies, people don't talk about growth, people talk about declining growth, people don't want to take chances. Suddenly people think, oh, FDI in retail. Why are we allowing FDI in retail? FDI in retail is going to take Kirana shop. Oh, that's a gross mistake. That's an ignorant youth. An ignorant youth would always say that. Because you don't know what you're talking about. You know why? Those who have read those who understand what we're talking about, I have a question to ask. Some of you, those who will leave this place, or some of you, those who are sitting out here, would be munching Frito Lays possibly. I'm sure about it. Lays are good, munch करते हो आप. कई ऐसे products हैं, आपको जरूरत नहीं उनकी? Did you need them? No. In India, people can make better products, but why did you go for it? Not that you wanted to go for it. You did not have a choice. When you actually decide to make a change, you see, prohibition or banning is never a solution. The point I'm making is, ignorant youth would always say, oh, Kirana shop will die. Sorry, you're not aware. There is a concept called cash and carry system, which is already there outside of Jaipur. You go there, it is honest until and unless proven dishonest. That's the fact of it. The day you are caught, you are going to be dishonest. Yes, you are all honest. Nobody will say I am dishonest. Why would I say that? Because the definition of dishonesty is actually illustrated or inscribed in some possible. So I am honest. If you ask somebody, I am honest. So some of you possibly, let me ask you a question. If I ask you a question as blunt, as blatant as this, are you corrupt or not? Raise your hand. Be honest about it. Please be honest. You are very good. That's a good answer. So are you not corrupt? Raise your hand. Please raise your hand. Raise your hand. Good. 1, 2. Very good. Please. Good. And now tell me, how many of you are indecisive? Raise your hands. Don't say that you don't have any idea what to do. Just how many are indecisive? 1, 2. You know what they just say in English? Blessed are those who say nothing. Don't be blessed. It's good to be blessed in books only. Don't be blessed. Say something. Have an opinion. Say something. And if you don't answer right now, you have to answer every year at every occasion. People have to answer. You know, it's a level playing field. Everything gets squared up. Vijay Mallya has to answer. You know what? For so many decades, Indians never saw that face. You know, looking down and almost possibly telling people that, in a very metaphorical way, he's saying, please help me. He may not accept it, but the fact is, everything gets squared up. Nothing is perpetual. So the point is, if you don't answer, you don't give a damn to it. But don't ever actually raise your opinion or voice. I would rather, the day a lot of people actually went rallying in support of Anna Hazare, I was the first one to say, good, if these 10 lakh people who have actually amassed to celebrate or to possibly support him, if they never ever do anything unethical, India would be a hugely better place. You know, so I read somewhere, had India been as corrupt as America is, you know, India would be 3 times powerful than America would be 2011 May. If had India been as corrupt as America is, 1950 to 2011, 60 years. And you know what? The biggest case of corruption are seen in me and you. Yes, I was as corrupt as any ordinary person would be. Yes, I was one of those corrupt people. You know, I'll tell you how I was a corrupt person. When I was part of, like you people are right now, on the verge of doing something exceptionally well, I was very corrupt. You are better off. What does that do? The answer lies in, if you would ask me anything about what was happening under the world, I would have no idea. Now you will say that no, we know about it. Well, let's do a litmus test. Come on. Tell me today's newspaper, 3 important business news, 2 important frontline news. Quickly, raise your hands. And if you have not got a chance to read today's newspaper, forget about it. Yesterday's newspaper. I can understand you are too busy. Good. Raise your hands please. 3 important business news, 2 important frontline news. First, where we are corrupt because we don't keep abreast with changes taking place in the environment. I am very sure of it. You know why? Because dynamic environment expects people to be dynamic. You see, you have global dreams. We ask about Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, Google, Larry Page, Sergey Brin. Your dreams are going to be they are flooded with those companies. Global dreams, local skills doesn't happen. It doesn't move. What are you talking about? You have local skill set and you're talking about global companies, global ambitions. Have you ever thought that why Indian samosa doesn't sell at Manhattan? And why McDonald's gets sold every nook and corner of India? Why McDonald's is purchased by us like crazy? Why we are driven by these companies like KFCs and all? Why an Indian never thought of selling a samosa in their own recipe possibly to people at Manhattan? Why we did not do it? Because we did not have those ambitions, as he pointed out. Absolutely right. We did not have that kind of thought process. It's a fact of life. I would not like to actually go beyond anything. I'm not here to preach you. I'm here to actually tell you what I went through. And I told you I was very corrupt. I got graduated and I was a Hindi medium student. I am from Rajasthan, a remote place, Sirohi, Hindi medium, completely one-act student, rustic background. I heard about English in a formal manner in post-graduation second year. Because I was completely Hindi. I had no clue of how to speak English. But I was very highly driven by big things. Somebody would ask me, क्या करना चाहोगे? मैं ये करूँगा, मैं वो करूँगा. Somebody he asked me, okay, बहुत अच्छी बात है. ये करोगे, वो करोगे. He asked me 5 things. अच्छा बताना ये क्या होता है? अच्छा बताना इसका मतलब क्या होता है? I had no idea. I said, I'm not aware, but I know. He said, when will you know? When the time will come. And that was when I had already done my first year of post-graduation. You can imagine. And there I actually tried to transform myself. A Hindi medium student went in for overhauling. First thing, I knew that if I have to be in touch, if I have to keep myself completely abreast with changes taking place, I need to know and I need to go with the flow. And I learned language. Language essentially doesn't mean English. It's a wrong notion. You don't have to be good at English. Come on, Lalu Prasad Yadav became so successful. I mean, he would rather not speak English. Yeah? Manmohan Singh doesn't speak English in a very flamboyant fashion. Forget about it. He doesn't. He rather speaks very simple, plain English. Don't tell me that it's false. No, it's because of language. So I learned language. I don't know how many actually will relate to me, but the fact of life is, speak Hindi very properly, first of all. Speak your own language, which actually, you have to speak that way. Any language, Hindi, Malayalam, Tamil, but you need to know that. First thing is that, Amitabh Bachchan को इतना लोग एडमायर क्यों करते हैं? इसलिए नहीं करते क्योंकि वो बहुत versatile actor हैं. उनकी हिंदी भी बहुत अच्छी है जितनी उनकी इंग्लिश है. And then I actually learned to learn English, which was very important for me. You know? And for the last 13 years, I have been taking language classes. You know, and preparing people for the biggest management exam CAT, and I'm a language trainer. Well, just to showcase how it can happen. So my point is, it's not about can't do. My point is, I really admire a gentleman who is no more now, and he was the only politician in India for 60 years. No politician, or 50 years, no politician had guts to say that I'm proud of my country because India is about blah blah blah. You know, there's this IIT student who went to USA and he was being taught by one of the talented professors, and he asked the question, as it happens, Indians are too smart at the highest level, no doubt about it. Higher education, Indians have huge applause always there. So he asked the question and the gentleman was quick to reply, and the moment he looked at him he said, oh, are you Indian? He said, yeah. He thought that he's going to actually appreciate it. Wow, very good answer. He said, do you people still live on trees? Then he very sheepishly looked down and said, no, no, sir, we've come down now. Because India is supposedly a country of snake charmers. That was the reply that he, so that's the kind of image that we have. That's the kind of image that we have. And people actually change it. At the best level, India has no parallel, there is no problem whatsoever. The entire world is scared of us. But that's a very meager percentage of the entire population. You know, the point I'm making is, it's very easy to actually cast slur upon people, it's very easy to smile. This gentleman, because I remember 1992 when India got opened, liberalized, privatized and globalized, Slumdog Millionaire is criticized for having shown dark part of India. And people criticize Jenny Boyle for having done so. Why would you not criticize those politicians who would make money and who would get a lot of votes by actually displaying the darker part of India and making sure that dark part of India remains darker? Only the bright part of India is, all belongs to people who are that elite percentage who somehow or the other way now, every second day they are in news. Yes, that's a fact of life. Because media is exposing them every nook and corner, and that's exposing. And now you know that why a country like India is struggling, because your entire country is sold, the land is sold, you have no land.